EIT Health and EIT Raw Materials were designated in 2014, and these KICs were set up in response to call for proposals. And the two speakers that we have here, Volker Lodvig from EIT Health at the end, and Andreas Klossek from EIT Raw Materials, closer to me, are the voices of experience from that process. So it will be interesting and useful to hear what they say about the application process. And of course, we must bear in mind that what we will hear is simply their experience, their tips and their recommendations. It's not a rigid and defined process that applicants for food or added value manufacturing should necessarily follow. So KICs are autonomous and structured according to what suits them. So let's hear what Andreas and Volker have to say, and we'll take questions from the floor as well. Andreas, looking at raw materials, can you summarize how you found the whole application process and setup process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I can very well remember being here in Brussels. No, it was actually in Budapest 2 years ago for the information day at that times. So we also had an information day where all the interested applicants and KICs came. And these times it was health and raw materials. And yeah, so I very well saw that, you know, the way, you know, and the sharpness also, how the requirements and how the criteria, also how the legal documents and the eligibility criteria that we need to know about are presented has really improved. So I think now even better, the applicants, you know, can have a very good feeling of what the business plan and the proposal should look like.
What do you think the main difficulties were in putting it all together?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the main difficulty was really the mindset. The mindset of many partners was really that we are talking about yet another research program and not about an innovation program. A program that should, you know, bring research to the market and should create entrepreneurship. So it was, I think, a change of mindset, which we also had to do in the proposal phase. So we began very much driven from a research perspective, you know, what will be the new and hot topics along the raw materials value chain over the next 7 years. But then we actually figured out, yeah, that is good, that is nice as well, but we also need to create a business plan with a set of KPIs, with a fully fledged financial planning, meaning a P&L, a balance sheet, a cash flow analysis, and so on. And that really caused a turnaround also in the preparation phase, you know, from a research program, from a programming, more towards a business plan. And I think that was probably the most difficult, but also, experience-adding procedure.
Did you get help with trying to draw up a business plan or to start to think in a business kind of way?
Yeah, so our partners committed a fund. So we set up a fund of, I think, 600K for the preparation year, out of which we could fund consultants and, you know, expertise from outside the partnership in order to actually build up the business model with all the financial planning modules, for example. So that was really helpful.
But you also need, I would imagine, a huge amount of determination to see it through. There must be a temptation to give up early on.
Oh yeah, pretty much. I mean, that was probably one of the most demanding years in my career, I have to say, although the upcoming ones are also not easier. But it was also a very rewarding year. So, you know, the international feeling, the international consortium that you have and the work that you do is quite unusual for me or for us. So it was very rewarding and benefiting indeed.
Does this all ring true for you as well, Volker? Do you remember this sort of thing, the way that Andreas is describing it?
Yeah, also, what we have done is we had developed different working groups where we put then the application together, and our decision was to integrate as much people as possible so that the people really are with their heart behind the application. And that means that we had around 300 people writing the application. And what I learned is with 300 people to write something about 30,000 pages is no problem. But 50 pages, that's really a challenge.
So that was one of the main difficulties.
It was one of the main challenges we had, because you really have to bring the people in the situation that they agree to the reduced content you can give in this 50 pages. That is very helpful when you then start up with the KIC. But in the preparation phase, this was the greatest challenge we had.
We are now February. The deadline is July, so March, April, May, June, July, say about 5 months to go. When you had 5 months to go, how far were you in the application process?
That's quite difficult to answer. I will give you two answers. First of all is that the consortium that was put together started much earlier. So we didn't start with the call for healthy living and active aging. We started much upfront. So we have done a lot of work upfront, and the most important topic, what we could manage upfront, was to create trust between the partners. Because this then enabled us in the year really to put together the application. And what we had at the actual status of today, we had the working groups, we had the first results of the working groups. So what we have done in the upcoming months was that we put together this and reduced this to 50 pages. But the content of the 35,000 pages was there, and we had to reduce it.
How many partners did you have, and how many did you lose along the way?
Okay, it was mentioned just before in the last session that we have core partners and associate partners. Core partners are partners on the international level, and associate partners are partners on the national level, in a nutshell. What we have done is, with the core partners, that we required from industry, from the board of directors, or from the universities, from the rector, a signed commitment that they will support InnoLife or EIT Health. They had to convince their in-kind contributions in the magnitude of 20 million over the 7 years, and they had to sign that they will pay the membership fees each and every year. And from these core partners, we had 52 when we started, and 50 are still there. And with associate partners, we didn't have this strict contracting, and there we have lost about 25%.
How did you keep their partners' commitment, Andreas?
So probably one of the most demanding things is to keep the partner alignment with the concepts that you develop, right? So you have the core team, the writing team, or whatever, and this team develops certain concepts, like a monitoring concept, a KPI concept, a financial sustainability concept, and so on. That all then goes into the business model. Now, I think this can only fly if you have a commitment and if you have the transparency towards the partners. This is sometimes not too easy because the system is fairly complex. You also then have a legal system that is behind all of that. And you need to keep the partnership committed and aligned. So that is why we introduced very quickly, or let's say initially after starting the consortium, certain bodies of governance. So we had, for example, already a general assembly that was running in the consortium phase. We also had a steering committee that was running every 6 weeks at different partner locations. And then we had a troika that was steering the steering committee, and thereby through this cascading approach, we were, I think, able to keep partners aligned and informed about our concepts.
Did you ever at times feel that you were moving away from the research and the innovation?
Well, I mean, you can still see that it is informed by research, and it's also good like this. I think we need to know what we are doing, and this is clearly also driven by what are the hottest topics. For example, like Industry 4.0 in maybe manufacturing. But the challenge is then to make out of that kind of a service offering. And that also brings you to the idea that actually the KIC is a body, is a legal entity, it is actually a startup by itself, which should be able to live like a startup or like a company then later on by its own. And to bring that shift in mindset and also shift from research to a service offering was very demanding. And I have to say that we are not done with it. You know, we are not ready with having developed all the offerings that we have. We are still in the process.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for those initial words. Now, any questions from the floor at this point about the applications that were put forward for raw materials and health and drawing together and starting it up? Any thoughts that anybody would like to put to Andreas or Volker? Anybody? Not yet? Okay, let's listen a bit more. I wanted to ask you about your KIC's headquarters. How did you decide where to have it, Volker?
Okay, we also had a governance structure, and the governance structure was our executive committee, where from all CLCs have been 2 representatives. And we have the strict rule within EIT Health that we always are backing an academic partner with an industry partner. So we have 50% industry partners and 50% academic partners. And so the executive committee was formed. And then we had a decision meeting where the headquarters should be. And I was then very happy that I could tell my colleagues that the German government was willing to spend, it was Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg, to spend together 1 million euro per year for EIT Health. And this made it then, for my colleagues, very easy to put the headquarters to Munich.
Okay, what about you, Andreas?
Well, we had a competition going on, which was running in one of the steering committees. And we had 3 applications. So, and then the criteria were like, what are the costs of living? What is co-funding that we can get in? Is there already a CLC that is close by? So we had also a bit a geographical approach, you know. Could we create a spider in this kind of network and thereby use this spider, the headquarter, to also align the CLCs with each other? Because we figured out that this is very important, or might be very important, to avoid a silo thinking, you know, that we have already in the raw material sector a bit. We wanted to avoid that in our governance structure, and actually we also want to go away from this thinking in the raw material sector. That is why we needed not CLCs that are, you know, pushing on one topic only and then no other one, like a gatekeeper feeling. We wanted to have CLCs that are co-working across CLC linkage. And I think the headquarter as a spider in this network was very helpful in that sense.
So how many co-location centers do you have now? And is that the same number that you started with?
Yeah, we started with 6 co-location centers, and we still have 6.
And where are they?
Yeah, so for us, they are in Sweden, Finland, Belgium, France, Italy, and Poland.
And how do you communicate between them?
Yeah, so that has been a task that we needed to solve last year, because what we figured out is that there was developing something like a headquarter and CLC, you know, logic. Our way to deal with it was actually to build teams. So we have what is called a strategic management team, where we have the steering group chairs of the CLCs, the CLC managers, and the headquarter managers in one team, and they meet every quarter one time. And then the same we have on the operational side, where we have the headquarter management team and the CLC managers co-working on operational aspects.
What about you, Volker?
Okay, what we have meetings on and ensure this on different levels. First of all, the directors of the CLCs are members of the management team of our headquarter. So they participate in the bi-weekly meetings we have, the 2 weekly meetings we have.
Remind me how many co-location centers you have?
Sorry?
Co-location centers, how many?
6 and InnoStars. So it's 6 plus InnoStars. And then we have, on the different pillars, we have working groups where the directors that are responsible for these pillars meet regularly over all CLCs. And then we just building up a meeting of the chairman of the different supervisory boards, so that we also have then information exchange. So we have it on different levels.
Any questions about co-location centers and partnerships and how you keep people together and how you develop your partnerships for your proposals? Any thoughts anybody wants to raise from the floor about this, or the questions that raw materials and health would have had to tackle in the first year? Anything? Yeah, question there. Microphone, please. And question up here for number 2. Thank you.
Will Meister, Organic Services. I'm from an SME with a strong emphasis on the S. And what I'm wondering is how SMEs have played a role in this whole process and what they bring to your KICs.
Mm-hmm.
SMEs, Andreas.
Yeah. Of course, a very important topic. We would like to bring in SMEs wherever we could. You know, it's very important, of course. Now we have a partner status or partner logic that our partners basically pay a membership fee. And that can be 100,000 euro per year for a core partner and 30,000 euro per year for an associate partner, which is of course quite a lot of money for an SME, which means that we had to think about other ways to bring in SMEs. So that's why we actually created specific activities that are mainly addressing SMEs' needs. So we have something that is called an SME booster, where we actually would like to give out kind of a voucher system to an interested SME to use, for example, infrastructure that the partners in our network provide.
Volker?
That is one way.
What we have organized the SMEs on the CLC levels, so not on the international levels, because it makes more sense to take care of them on that level. And we have the experience in France, in Germany, in Spain from cluster management, and so we've integrated cluster management organizations into the CLCs that help us to support the SMEs.
Thank you. Question there.
Yeah, I have a question to Volker. So what are the InnoStars specifically doing, and what is, because I think I have heard that in your consortium, it's just, you're the only consortium which have InnoStars in that sense.
So I didn't catch that. You're the only consultant who?
Which have these InnoStars in this, but it's just a clarification of InnoStars.
What we have discussed, thank you, what we have discussed within our group was that on the one side, we have to identify the excellence in healthcare in Europe, and that is the goal of the European Union. On the other side, it can't be that only a few states that have proven excellence are participating in such initiatives. So what we have done is we used the scorecard, excellence scorecard of the European Union, and here you have spider diagrams, and there we have identified the centers of excellence where we have put the CLCs. And then we have identified, especially in the South and emerging countries, we have identified centers where this spider diagram will be developed or could be developed for the future. And our concept with InnoStars is that we support them in developing this excellence, and that we utilize the regional money on the other side as a lever that we even more can help them to develop to an excellence. And the goal at the end of the day is that our InnoStars become CLCs at the end of the day.
In practice, how straightforward was it to structure the new KIC after designation? I mean, has it been a full-time job setting up a KIC? And we all know that, but one of the key features of the structure of running the KIC is appointing a chief executive. So you've got to hand over control from what you planned and your vision and your hope and put it in the hands of somebody who's got to realize it. How difficult is that? And how difficult is it to find the right person?
First of all, I really have enjoyed this year, and it was really a thrilling period for me, and I loved it. On the other side, I had never such a poor hourly income than I had in this year. That means you are really working around the clock, but that's okay, because what you're doing is great and motivating, really. And what is important is that you have a team that is really supporting you to realize this. and I was one of the founding members of the InnoLife initiative, and so for me, I could see my baby be born, and that was really emotionally really extremely good feeling for me. And now we have the management team with our CEO Sylvie Bouvet on board. And for me, my learning is that when your child is born and when there are other people that will make your child grow up, that you really have to learn to keep your fingers away. Things are different. The new management team has different ideas than I had. But my learning is really let your fingers away and take a glass of red wine and say, I wouldn't do this way, but accept it, because that's the only way it will work.
Is it difficult to let go, Andreas?
It is, yeah. There were times in the last year, you know, when I was the interim CFO, when I took care of the financial sustainability strategy, and that was very interesting. And that was one of my favorite topics, I have to say. Now we got the permanent CFO, and first it was difficult, but now, you know, I mean, he is a renowned expert. So he comes from the venture capital scene. He comes from 3i actually, and has a very, very good track record actually in you know, setting up startups, providing venture capital, making a due diligence, keeping a portfolio, managing the portfolio, and so on. So that was fantastic, you know, that he joined the team, and that in the end made it easier and also, of course, more logical. So it is hard, I fully agree with Volker, but there are thousands of things that you need to take care of. So we are currently running a process mapping exercise, for example, a thing that we should have made maybe earlier last year, because we were, for a quite long time not aware, you know, what are our secondary processes in our KIC as a startup? What are the primary processes? And how should we build up an IT system, an ERP system, for example, that is really taking care of managing these complicated processes. There are questions on, you know, the monitoring and reporting of the KPIs that we have set up in the proposal. There are legal questions that we were dealing with last year. So, as you might know, we have a quite complicated legal structure, which we believe is necessary to arrange, you know, the separation of management and ownership. But at the same time, we are bolstering that through a very good and also broad governance structure, including the CLCs. As I explained, with the strategic and the operational management team. So there are a couple of things that you need to take care of, and if you are a team, then you need to give away things in order to concentrate on others.
There are big challenges in that first year of setting up, because it is a critical period. You've got to get the legal entity and various partnership arrangements all finalized and so on. There must be challenges there. And I'd be interested to hear what those were for you, and also what support you might have had from EIT at this point.
Okay, I think, if you allow, I will answer it on a little bit different way to meet all these challenges and to be successful. First of all, what you really need is the trust of all partners. That's what I learned in this year. The basic of our success is trust, because you can't discuss everything with all partners when a problem rises up. So there has to be a trust that when somebody from we have had also an interim management board, when the interim management board takes decision, that you do it. And even when there is, I as a chair of the interim management board, when there was no meeting and there was an immediate decision, that I had the competency to take this decision, and that there was a trust of the partners to do it best for EIT Health. I think that's really the first topic. The second is what was for me very helpful. As you know, I'm with Roche Diagnostics, a company, and in my back have been the heads of the most important departments like legal, finance, and human resources. And when I had a question, I could lift my phone and ask them and get really immediate support. And that was very helpful, because you can't ask for every problem you have some consultant to give you a solution. Number three, what we have done is we have all the core competencies within our interim management team, and we had the support of Ernst Young. That was very helpful as a management support, and there was a support for setting up the meetings, for writing the minutes, for doing research on publications, on laws, and so on. So things that are really important to be successful, but that are not at the core of your success. So you need such support.
Could I shortly build on the trust? Because I fully agree. I think that is really the most important factor. And I think for building up trust, it's not only important that you communicate and that you do alignment with the partners, but it's also important that your call management system that we had to have in place last year in order to fill the first business plan for this year is as good as possible. Because I think the credibility of a KIC organization towards the partners rises and falls, I think, with the quality and the credibility of the call system. So if I were you and think about the next year in the startup year, I would really stress the importance and think about the call system, about the IT system, and about the frequency of calls and the transparency, expert involvement, and so on. So for me, that is really one of the key learnings of last year, I have to say.
Thank you. I'm going to ask some questions about funding in a moment, but I was wondering if anybody else from the floor has any points they want to raise or to put to Andreas or Volker. Yes, gentleman there, one. Anybody else?
Thank you. I have a question to Volker. It's this morning we learned from the EIT management that the RIC system was worthwhile taking in, and you have chosen the InnoStar system in your KIC. What's the difference?
It's when we started, there was not the RIC system, so we had to solve the problem for us. How can we integrate these regions into EIT Health? And we now use the RIC system to get access to additional partners that are not represented within our InnoStars. So the RICs are for calls are for partners that are not members of the InnoStars. So with this, you extend, in brackets, you extend the access of partners, you extend the InnoStar region.
All right. Anybody else? No more questions yet, okay. Tell me about funding. How much money did you have to start off with from EIT, and how have you managed to get more funding? Andreas.
Mm-hmm. So our startup budget for last year was 3.8 million, so almost the 4 million that were foreseen. And I have to say we also needed them because there were a couple of legal questions that we needed to solve. Not only on the KIC legal entity level, but also on the CLCs. So we have 6 CLC legal entities in place. They are all limited companies, 100% owned by the KIC legal entity, which in our case is a limited organization as well, and which itself is again owned then by an association where all the members, where all the partners are members actually, which is an important aspect also for the non-profit and public organizations. So that was really one of the most important tasks in the first half of the year, as well as the recruiting. So we had a professional headhunter to headhunt the management team and also the CLC managers. And then probably the third aspect is the communicational aspect, where we also needed quite an amount of money in order to set it up. I have to say that there we are still optimizing our communication. So we needed to exchange a member of the management team, in the last year. Also things that happen in real life. And that cost us really a bit of time and also money. We tried then to outsource this function to a service provider, but this is also something that I would not advise, I have to say. So I would probably rather fall back on one of the partners, at least for the interim period, and try to involve a partner and take care of it.
The sum of money you mentioned, who decided upon that, and did you get it all in one donation, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, it is the EIT governing board that decided the startup plan and the startup amount. And the second question about the financing, so there is always a logic of pre-financing and a logic of payment of the balance, which is released after the reporting has been done. So that is also, let's say, classical Horizon 2020 logic. In our case, it was a 70% pre-financing that we received, I think somewhere in April, May last year. And then the outstanding amount will be paid this year after we have submitted the reporting. So we are still finalizing the reporting and we'll submit it on 29th of February.
Have you found it easy to raise money from other sources too?
Well, we are funded basically by the national government of Germany, so by the Ministry of Education and Research in Germany. And our CLCs on their level are as well funded. So I think in the northern CLC in Luleå in Sweden, we receive 600K per year for the CLC. And
Volker, tell me about your amount of money that you had to start off with and how you've managed to add to that.
Okay, it was the sugar money with up to 4 million we received from the EIT. Then we had 3.5 million from our membership fees. And then we had 500,000 from Bavaria and 500,000 from Baden-Württemberg. And I really want to give an idea to the new applicants here that it's really important to talk to the local authorities and to get support from them because this is, has a benefit on two different levels. One is for sure the money, and always in the KIC you can use the money and it's worthwhile, but on the other side, we discussed the budget cuts this morning. It is really important that the local authorities and governments support the EIT and that in this way there will be in the future more increases of the budgets for the EIT instead, because the country said we think that EIT is the right instrument to foster innovation in Europe and are willing to invest. And so it is not about only about the money, it's really about the political support of the local authorities. So I want to motivate you to take contact to them and to get actively their support.
Last couple of questions. Membership fees. You introduced membership fees as a way of raising money. Can you explain that?
Sorry?
Membership fees?
Yeah. It's about similar magnitude, 75,000 euros per core partner and 25,000 euros per associate partner. And our idea is that the money invested by our core partners, the in-kind contributions, so the 20 million per partner, as well as public money that is invested, should not be invested in creating administration. And when you finance, and that we are doing, the whole administration with your membership fees, then you have a lean organization, because then it's really out of your pocket money, and you look that you discuss, do you really need 10 people more or not? And so this really enables you to have a lean management structure, to have the decisions on the level where they belong, and that the most valuable research money and public money is not invested here.
Thank you. Looking back now to the position that the people in the hall here are in, what have you learned that you would recommend? Any lessons? Would you do anything differently now compared with then? What's the main message you would want to get across?
Okay, my main message, first of all, really create trust. That's really the key of all. And the second, what I mentioned, is that in the early stage of writing the application, you should try to get a signed contract with the management boards and with the rectors where they really commit their engagement in your initiative. This makes you extremely strong at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would say that I think it's important that the partners are standing behind, the proposal, meaning that it's also people from partners that are maybe writing the proposal, developing the key concepts, still trying to adapt the business logic, which might involve also externals, of course. But I believe that it's important that the KIC partnership is taking care of the proposal and of the main pillars, of the main cornerstones, because that will automatically, in my view, create trust. A second very operational thing is, don't underestimate the effort, not only in the proposal writing, but also in the setup of the KIC. So we, I think, underestimated a bit the administrative burden, meaning that, some had other projects running at the same time as well. So I would really advise to, have 2-3 full-time equivalents really dealing with the administrative aspects, also from a coordinator side, from the partner side altogether, and then have a management team in place that is fully fully working on this project. So it's very difficult to have another project or maybe running an institute or whatever aside. This is really tough, I have to say.
Well, thank you both very much indeed. That's been very useful and very informative. Andreas Klossek from EIT Raw Materials and Volker Lodvig from EIT Health. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you.